user experience design, which is a core part of the marketing rubric in your projects. And I know this is billed as a lecture, but as there is just a small number of you, I'm going to turn it more into a workshop. So it's interactive. Is everyone happy with that? So feel free to ask questions, interrupt me if you want anything clarified, because I'm going to do the same. I'm going to ask you questions and be interactive. Okay? So, what is usability? There's a very boring definition there, which I expect you to read in your own leisure, but what does usability mean to you? To use something easily?
Yeah, without any issues.
Without any issues? Okay, in what context?
The way I see it. So it's easy to just get information out and just that's it.
So it's information, so it's about finding information and being able to use something easily. Are we talking specifically digital products or this table, for example?
Could be posture.
It could actually be both. It could actually be both. But for the purposes of this lecture, we are looking at digital products. Okay? So one part of what you said was about finding information, which is actually a really big part of usability or user experience. More generally, usability measures the extent to which a product can be used by specified users, a type of user, to achieve specified goals, because when we go to a website, we may have more than one goal. We might have 4 or 5. May want to browse the prices of various cameras, buy some shampoo, and return something. So we have multiple goals. In terms of efficiency, so what does efficiency mean? How fast? So the speed, how quickly you can achieve a particular task or goal. Effectiveness.
The quality of result you get to efficiency.
That's right, error rate. How many errors do you make? And satisfaction. That's a really broad term. What does satisfaction mean? If you're happy, exactly how happy or unhappy you are in a specified context of use. Now that specified context of use could be a tablet, a mobile phone, it could be at work, it could be a number of different specified contexts. It could be of the digital device you're using and the place you're using it in, and whether you're working or whether it's for pleasure. A lot of different variables that affect how useful a particular device can be. Okay, so that's how we measure usability in general. So why is UX, or user experience, important for your product? Why bother doing it? Why am I here?
For the first light. So achieve the first.
Yes, exactly. So if your product isn't useful, no one will use it. Who's used a website or a particular digital product that is useful? I'm sure all of us have, haven't we? We've all got bad websites or pretty awful websites in our memories. So we all know the kinds of things that we would like in our websites. However, we can't assume what we want is useful. You can never make that assumption. Every decision you make about design should always be based on evidence, empirical evidence. Okay, so 88% of online customers are less likely to return to a site after a bad experience. I think it's probably more than that, to be honest. We're all really fickle. We expect a lot of our e-commerce transactions or any electronic transactions. And if it goes wrong once, are we likely to go back again? No. Oh. 94% of a user's first impressions are design related. Now that's a really kind of fuzzy statement. Design related. We've got to unpick that a little bit during the lecture. Okay? It doesn't always mean the way that it looks. Now I've been told to put this in, this particular slide. Why is UX important for your final year projects? It is an integral part of the design and build process, both of them. integral part of the evaluation process. So after you've built, you need to test it with some users, so your prototypes. Okay? We expect your project to be designed, built and evaluated with rigour and according to theory, that is both software engineering and UX theory, and best practices, and we will mark accordingly. So if you look at the marking rubric of your projects, there's a section about usability, user experience. So employ some of the techniques that I'm about to tell you about, just to give yourself small marks, and to make your product useful. So, think about the software engineering process. Now, I'm not a software engineer, nor do I want to. So, you, on the other hand, are all software engineers. So, someone tell me about the software engineering requirements process, very briefly in about 2 sentences. What do you do? It's not good if there's silence because you don't know what you're doing.
Find out their intended goal.
Pardon?
You find out their intended goal. Like what they want.
What they want, right, so what they want, okay. How often do stakeholders know what they want? They're often not very good at articulating exactly what they want. Often they're very good at saying what they would like, but what they actually want in clear, defined processes is quite difficult to get.
Sometimes you don't even know what you want. You know that something's wrong, but you can't put your finger.
Exactly, and that's often, that vagueness is often part of what you have to get through, both as a software engineer, but more importantly as a UXer, because there's some more soft questions that you need to ask. You need to find out about who your users are, and you need to ask, who are your users? And if it's something that's new, then you need to say, well, who are you targeting? And it may be there's more than one type of user. So you could have, for example, Amazon. Who's Amazon's target audience? They do it very well. They target everybody really, really well. But in terms of your own projects, think, who is my target audience? Who is my user? I need to cater for them. And if it's, for example, if it's children, you need to think, well, what kind of interactions am I looking at? They often can't use a mouse particularly well, so it would be more tablet related. Similarly, what if they're elderly? What kind of physical impositions is that going to think about in terms of your interactions or their interactions with a device? During requirements gathering, another helpful way of keeping your users as the focus during your design process is to create something called a persona. Has anyone heard of a persona? Well, a persona helps you focus on how a user will think, act, and why they want to accomplish the goal. So if you go back to thinking about what I said, the definition of usability, if you bear in mind, you know who your users are going to be, and you can create a persona based on evidence, a little story about them. So they're a combination of motivations and behaviours, why they want to do things, and they're not based on a single person. It's more identifying a group of users and what their characteristics are. So they should be based on factual data. I mean, you can, more experienced UXers, I would say, yes, you can pluck it out of thin air and hope that the user matches. But as your software engineers, I would base it on questions and answers that you get from the requirements process. So, let me give you a couple of examples of what a persona looks like. So, this is Catherine, and she's age 43, she's a teacher, she's in Somerton in Surrey. Her goal, she wants to find discounts online, doesn't want to spend a lot of time on page, prefers newer products to older products. Her user behaviours, this is quite key. Scan through, views the products quickly, likes to share deals and information with others, and gets distracted easily. And then I have a little quote that encompasses what her behaviour is like online. So, I've got another one here. Steve. I thought this one last night when trying to encompass you lot and my children. So, Steve, age 21, occupation, software engineering student, location, Kingston in Surrey. Goals, wants to find information about UX online after this lecture, doesn't want to spend a lot of time doing his work, prefers people. Use behaviours, doesn't read densely packed text, spends longer on picture-based pages than text-based, spends only a short amount of time on each page. So I'm thinking if I was developing a site for him, I would have something that was more video-enabled, not text-based, and something that's available on his mobile phone, quite readily, because he prefers his mobile phone. So you can make design decisions based on the type of user you have, your target user. And if you keep them in mind during your design process, what their behaviours are, then you're more likely to create a product that is definitely targeted towards them and that they're more likely to use. Has anyone got any questions so far about personas?
I would assume that in your project you wouldn't really create real personas because then that would be...
None of them are real. None of them are real. They're based on a group identity or type of user. So you have 4 different types of user. Yeah? It's a group identity. So you have all of the characteristics of that particular group.
And where would this usually go in terms of project?
Well, you know, it can go through appendices. As long as it's there. The thing is, again, I'm not a software engineer in a UX project, or even those of you who are doing design projects, not build projects. This would go in your appendices, but you can link back to it. Say, my requirement, you know, it's part of the requirements gathering process, along with like questionnaires and surveys and all the
More
others.
like technology review, literature review, and which would if you don't know.
Design it would be in your strategy, research strategy. This is a method. It's a method. So that's one method of understanding your users and the kinds of design decisions you could make. Another method is hierarchical task analysis. This is a little old-fashioned in UX terms. It's not something we really use anymore, but it has a really logical structure, and I think that for the software engineers in you, that you would really like this, because it's granular. So, map out in detail what each person will complete their goals through a series of tasks. So basically, you're breaking down their tasks. What exactly is each type of user going to do? So, and they can be multiple levels and sub-levels. This can serve as an effective form of system documentation, enabling the developers to quickly understand how users will interact with the system, which is very useful for developers. So it's useful for you when you come to build it because you know exactly what pages you need to design and how to connect them. So you're making the journey from the beginning of the task to the end of the task much easier for them to carry out. So you need to understand first of all to draw out their primary goals. What is their primary goal? And there may be more than one. Then you need to understand the steps they need to perform to accomplish this particular primary goal. And then redesign the hierarchical task analysis to optimise the best way, the best pathway of getting to that goal. Here's a very, very, very small example. So we've got order a book from our website. Locate book, add book to shopping basket, enter payment details, please address, confirm order. But all of those can potentially have subtasks as well. But what this does potentially is help you think what kind of pathways and links need to happen to achieve that primary goal. This is one particular method. I think it's quite good in terms of system documentation. It actually maps it out for you. Any questions so far on hierarchical task analysis? No?
So I mean, that would feel like a good order for me because usually it's in a step order because that sounds like order book.
It's just an example.
It's just an
Julian.
example.
It's a poor example, but if you go online and type in hierarchical task analysis, you'll see these enormous tree-like diagrams that have got lots and lots of subtasks. And like I said, it's one particular method, and it is quite old-fashioned. I'm just saying it is acceptable to use as a type of method to draw out the types of goals and tasks related for a particular project. Okay? It's just an example. A poor one, I accept.
I just why am I doing this example?
No. Okay. What we do now, instead of hierarchical task analysis, is something called user journeys. It's another way of understanding a user's journey to their goals, and what we end up doing is drawing a user journey diagram, and it's extremely useful for mapping out a particular system that exists or a redesign to identify pain points in particular. So you draw out if you're revamping an existing website, draw out a user journey for a particular type of user and identify where the pain points are. Then redesign the pain points. How would you redesign the pain points? And what's really important about user journey is that you can also plot offline interactions. So what the previous one we had buying a book or ordering a book, some of that, an offline interaction would be going into the store to actually flip through it. But it's an important interaction, even though it's offline. Which is something you user journey can do, which may or may not, you could include it in a task analysis, but hierarchical task analysis are really meant for what happens in terms of the interaction with a digital device. So here again, it's a very, very, very simple user journey. And you can see the different paths that are available. Again, very, very, very simple. I have a more complex one, which I have a link to. Let's see. Here we go. This is a more complex user diagram. Pretty cool though. And it shows the different interactions with the different types of devices. And it's from a social gamer. And if you see over here, we have a persona in the corner, which helps identify some of the pain points and the user journeys all the way through. And there's lots more examples online. You may even find one that's very similar to your own project, which would be useful to use in a literature review, or at least to help you inform your own user journey. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Finally, heuristic analysis. Again, this is quite an old method, but it still works to this very day. Does everyone know what a heuristic is? Basically a rule of thumb, a general rule. Okay? A heuristic analysis is a tool used by UX researchers to evaluate the usability of a digital product. Now you can use this tool to identify pain points in an existing software to judge its existing usability, and then you can use it again iteratively with each of your prototypes to make sure that they've reached the very core basic of usability. They've hit that benchmark. You can find the usability heuristics of that. Okay, there's just 10 basic rules. Okay. Is usability enough? Question. It's a question. Is it enough? Is it enough that your product is useful? That it is effective, efficient, and it satisfies your users? Is it enough? No. Guy in the green shirt shaking his head. Why is it not enough?
Don't know, but otherwise the presentation will be over, so.
It might be, and it was super quick.
Yeah.
You know, it's not enough. I mean,
Is
is it enough that you can get your customers from, say, the homepage to the shopping cart, and they can buy their product and they're happy with it? Is that enough?
In a way, yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's not. You're right to a certain extent. But I think that is the very basic. That's the benchmark you have to hit. Absolute usability. Unfortunately, like I said, our experiences with the web have become even more developed. So, I'm going to focus on, for the rest of the lecture, I'm going to focus upon another two areas. So we started off, you look at my little arrow here, at the very bottom I've got usability. Yeah? The next stage up is incredible. And at the very top is okay. Now I'm talking pretty much on websites here, but some of the interactions I'm going to describe here also could be compared with other digital products. So it's not just websites. Credibility. Credibility is a key factor in a website's ability to persuade. What is credibility? So what would you define credibility as? Anyone?
It's that general instinct of the user to trust the site.
Trust. Trust is part of it.
It comes instinctively, you can't.
It's a good term to use is believability, whether you can believe in the content or the construction of a site. So credibility is meant for two dimensions, trustworthiness and expertise. Users will assess how much expertise is displayed in this site and how much trust they believe to be in this site. And then they make up a credibility assessment or rating, whether they believe in it or not. Now sometimes this internal assessment fails, which is why phishing works so successfully. So, interesting to note. There's a number of different types of credibility. Presumed, which is based on assumptions and stereotypes. So if I asked you which one of these websites do you find more credible? A website that ended in .org or a website that ended in .com?
It depends.
I agree. Someone else apart from Gideon answer.
.org.
.org. Yeah, the majority of users would probably say .org. What kind of company or corporation would use a .org?
Charity.
Charity. What do charities want? Do you see the irony? Yeah. But isn't it interesting that we've made an assumption of credibility based purely on the domain ending? Surface, we all do this. We go to a website based on initial first-hand experience of simple inspection. It either looks pants, which is why we go, oh no, I'll come back in, or it looks like a potential phishing site. So we give it a credibility assessment that's negative and then move on. Reputed, based on referrals, word of mouth, or third-party endorsements. The credibility of the referring source is critical for this type of credibility to work. Who has a Facebook account? Don't lie. If you have one, it's okay. Or okay, not just Facebook. You don't have to mix that. Any social media account. Okay. Who referred you to it? I know. But with most social media, what is the most common type of referral? Friends. The referring source is critical. Do you think your friend would send you a link to something that's potentially harmful?
Yes.
I change of friends. Well, that's not a friend. But the point is that you're more likely to take on board a third-party referral if you have a high credibility rating as a referrer. Often happens if you think about Amazon, and I like to come back to the example, but they do a lot of good things that I could use. If you think about their Amazon marketplace products that they sell, a lot of them are distributed by other companies, but they use the Amazon packaging and delivery service. So they're fulfilled by Amazon. So you are counting on your credibility rating of Amazon, if that's positive, to kind of branch across to whatever the marketplace company is. Happens very well with eBay as well. Earned, based on long-term, first-hand experience, not easily changed once it's established. So that's our own personal experience. Most of the time we stick with the company if they've given us good service, unless they do something seriously wrong. Which does happen, but most of the time we'll forgive them, or most users do forgive them. Persuasion, okay. What is persuasion? And I'm talking about persuasion in terms of computers persuading, not people. What is persuasion? No, no. Say it.
Reasons to stay. Why what is keeping you on the site? So what do you do to entice the user to stay on your website?
That's part of it. Motivation is a big part of it. That's part of the persuasion thing. But the goal of persuasion, and I have to say that 100% of the websites online are persuasive. 100%, all of them, every single one. The goal is either to change an attitude or a behaviour or both, without using coercion or deception. Again, I'd say most of them use coercion or deception. If you really want to scare yourself, go to darkpatterns.org and scare yourself. And on the web, more than often, it will be behaviour change. Okay? I'll tell you again afterwards, after I've finished speaking. Okay. So, web elements as persuasive tools. So there's certain things that you can design into your product to make it persuasive. Now, a lot of these particular techniques are used in practically all websites now. So there's 7 different types of persuasion: reduction, tunneling, tailoring, suggestion, self-monitoring, surveillance, and conditioning. I'd say that pretty much all of them are in use today. When I first came across and did this lecture to postgrads about 8 years ago, I'd say the first 3 were in general use. Now all of them are, which is quite scary. But as developers who may actually use some of these techniques, you need to be careful about how you use them and make sure that you don't make unethical sites. Okay, reduction. Persuading through simplifying. Reduction is a technology and technique that enables the target behaviour easier to achieve by reducing a complex activity like buying something online or booking a ticket into a number of small steps. Amazon One Click is probably the best example I've ever seen. It's one click. So what happens with one click?
You buy instantly.
It's more than that. You bought something, you pay for it, you've actually bought the product, you pay for it with your credit card, it is packaged up, and it is delivered to you. 4 things, one click. It's pretty impressive, isn't it? But if you think about it, most sites, I mean, if you think about you're booking a flight, you'll go through certain stages. You are taken through a number of steps. And it's normally they're reducing the number of steps to make it easier for you. This is down to maximising efficiency. If we go back to usability again to a certain extent, we're maximising efficiency. So when you're thinking about making sure that your users are going to reach their goal, you have to make sure they do it in the minimum number of steps on your site or product. Has anyone got any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward, really. Okay. Tunneling. Tunneling is similar and often used in conjunction with reduction. It means leading users through a number of predetermined steps. It's a bit like a roller coaster ride. This is where it potentially becomes unethical. So by entering the tunnel, you're then exposed to information and activities that you might not be exposed to at any other time. Who's used Expedia to book a holiday? Only. It happens on
so you have to go through the do you want to book your hire car, and you have to at least click no.
Exactly. But what I think this was interesting. Yeah, sorry.
National Rail. Every time you go through it, it will redirect you to the train and stuff, which is good, but it is a form of tunnel.
Yes.
You'll go to Virgin.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But you are going through the pages that the developer wants you to go through, that you have set up. I can't go where there isn't a pathway for me to go. I have to go through these steps. So you need to think again about with simplification of a process compared to unethical exposure to certain things that we may not want to see. All good.
Yeah, I just saw your email.
Oh, okay. No, it's all good. It's half term. Yes. Okay, where was I? The designer's tunneling controls what the user sees and experiences and the content and the possible pathways. So, from the user's point of view, they value the consistency, they know where they're going. Often you'll get almost like a breadcrumb navigation at the top as well. Has everyone seen those? So they've completed step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So they have an understanding of where they are in this process. Tailoring. Persuasion through customization. I think every single website uses this now. So how many times you go to a website that you know and have used lots of time and it'll say, hello, Lillian. Well, it won't say hello, it'll hello your name. And often you can rearrange a homepage to all the things that you've used or wanted before. Amazon will have it on your previous purchases. And all the things you've, or even things you haven't purchased, you've browsed. So, tailoring is a computing tool that provides information that's relevant to the users in order to change the behaviours and attitudes. So if you browse through something at an earlier date, and then you go back to Amazon, you're reminded that you browsed, and it's possible that you now buy. So the suggestion of an additional item based on previous visits. Have you noticed that Amazon do on their page, sorry I keep going back to this, but they keep using quite dangerous techniques, I think, sometimes on their websites. They also use something called social conditioning, in the sense that not only will they present to you what you were browsing before, what you bought before, or what other people bought before. And you're kind of thinking, well, I bought that book, or I'm thinking of buying this book, but other people bought this book. I wonder if I should buy that book too. And you may then
what
buy.
other people bought along with that item.
It's very clever, but it works. So another little technique that you may also want to employ, but again, what I find interesting is that places like Amazon will not just use one of these techniques on a page, but maybe 4 or 5 or 6. So you, as users, to a certain extent, we're quite vulnerable to these techniques.
Actually,
Okay. Suggestion. This is, again, intervening at the right time. It's related to a concept, a rhetorical principle called kairos, which means the right message at the right time. And we see this often when, in Expedia, you've booked your hotel, you've booked your flight, you've got your car if you want to. So essentially, you've kind of created your holiday. You've done it. And then you go in, before you log in and pay, there's a page with activities. You know, go balloon riding, go skiing, whatever. All these additional activities that cost more. They're not really part of the core part of your holiday. They're not kind of, where am I going to stay? How am I going to get there? How am I going to need a car? That kind of thing. It's actually additional extras. But the thing is, you're not really going to be concerned with those additional extras until you've got the core part of your holiday booked. So presenting that message at the right time, after all of that activity is done, is the right time. It's the right message at the right time. And it's very, very, very successful. So, Self-monitoring. Okay, this has become really big, especially with apps. Has anyone used like fitness apps? One my husband uses is Map My Run. There was another one, cycling, Strada, where you would map a route and you'd have to be not only yourself but other people on that route. It was bonkers.
There's also MyFitnessPal.
Okay. So there's actually self-monitoring of your own times, or whatever. Was it for is it for running?
It's for everything.
For everything. But can you get there are other people who are posting on there as well for their times? Are you comparing?
Yes, and the personal trainer can track your activities as well.
Okay.
Nutrition training.
Exactly. So these self-monitoring apps are really, really. It allows them to monitor themselves to modify their actions and behaviours to achieve a predetermined goal. So you can often put stats on a site that monitor the user in some way that's useful to the kind of business that you're creating the product for, that will motivate them to keep coming back again and again and again. Okay. Surveillance. Persuasion through observation allows one party to monitor the behaviour of another to modify their behaviour and attitude in a specific way. So, surveillance is really powerful because it changes the way you behave. You only have to look at Big Brother. Because I don't think those people behave the way they would do if they didn't know that the cameras weren't there. It fundamentally changes the way you behave. So, observation has powerful effects on the way people behave, making surveillance very, very successful. So you're more likely to conform to what the user or person observing you would like you to behave. So, think about, I know to a certain extent they've corrected this to a certain extent, but think about eBay. You bought something, or you're about to buy something, and the person who is picking up that thing that you bought is more likely to do a good job of it because they know that you're going to rate them. They know they are being observed. I put that in quotes in a way. So they change their behaviour because they know that they will be rated on the user observation. Quite interesting. Okay. Actually, ratings in general are pretty powerful. Imagine the two different scenarios. You're in a bookshop, yeah? And you buy a book. And someone taps you on the shoulders. That's a fantastic book, I think you buy it. And you'll go, oh my God, you're mad. And then go away. However, you then go onto Amazon and you see a bunch of 5 stars. You go, you know what, everyone else is great, I'll buy it. Click. Are we mad then for doing that? There are clear behaviours that we do online that we just wouldn't do in real life.
To like somebody who was helping out with something and say, what
No,
do
a
you
complete
think?
stranger can help you.
Mhm.
Complete stranger, because that's what they are online. Complete strangers.
Really, because if I go down to the review section, I'm actually choosing to scroll down to the review section.
Yeah.
So
But
that's
most
like me
people do that.
asking
I mean,
us.
the thing is, when you're buying something, you need to have information about a particular product because we don't have the sensory feedback that we would do in a store. So we have to create our own. And the best way that we can do that is by reading reviews.
They're not credible ratings.
Pardon?
They're not usually the most credible.
They're not credible. No, I know, but people still believe them, still buy. You're absolutely right. And what
There's
they will
no
do, they will bought. Some of them they get discounts on the product.
Like usually bots, like there's like 2 years ago, there's one of the bots that can just give ratings. Like we have, for example, we have an app that you just released in App Store. You can use it sort of level, raise the ratings and reviews, and they're not real people.
No, they've got the bots. Good to know. But you know what? That actually shows you that ratings are valuable. Otherwise, why go to that trouble? So again, leaving reviews, leaving ratings, having that user input for a particular product, again, very successful. Okay. And my last slide, conditioning. Has anyone heard of a chap called Skinner? know about electric shocks, dogs? No? Operant conditioning? Does it ring some bells? It was, yeah, negative reinforcement. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty infamous, rather nasty experiment that was done for negative conditioning on dogs. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about positive conditioning or operant conditioning. Conditioning technology reinforces particular target behaviours, and it uses the principles of operant conditioning to change behaviours, normally in terms of rewards. Okay? So, has anyone used a gambling site? Okay. Often, it's not. Why is that funny? It's not. Clarify if I'm wrong. Okay, but normally you get offered a small amount of money to join and to play with initially, and you often find that you will win very quickly on joining, and then that promotes you then to play again, and you may not win, and that hit, that positive reinforcement, is random. So you keep trying to play to get that positive reinforcement, and sometimes you will get it, but then you continue to play to keep getting that random positive reinforcement, which makes the process of playing compelling, if not addictive. Yeah? But again, it goes towards motivation and positive rewards and how and when to supply them. Okay, I know I've given you a lot of information today, potentially that you could use in your projects, and I've probably distilled a huge discipline in about 30 slides, which probably hasn't done it justice. Does anyone have any questions, just generally about UX? I've got to do another lecture on Gorilla Usability, which is what happens after you've built your prototype and how you want to test it with users, or whether you want to do that formally in a lab, or whether you want to go to Starbucks and just grab people. Both are valid. Both have different outcomes and different levels of reliability and validity, and therefore experimental generalizability. But if you have any questions that you think of after this, oh no, chat it, yeah.
Yeah, what's the most important one?
Hold on.
Your opinion. And YouTube.
I think it depends. It really depends on what your project is and what you're developing.
Some products, applications.
Yeah, so what are you doing? Website. Most of these apply to websites. Most of these techniques, this is technical persuasion, apply to websites. But what's everyone interested in doing? I mean, I can do Gorilla usability testing as another lecture, or would someone prefer something a bit more niche, like mobile UX, or both?
We have another hour.
No, I've got 1 hour. I've got 1 hour. But I'm happy to answer questions. If you want more time, I can have to answer more questions. If it's project specific, if need be. But have a think.
Can we have a mixture since the lecture is structured?
A mixture of.
Mobile, web, it's
Yeah, sure. No, I'm happy to do. I mean, I can't do it today, but I'm happy to do another lecture on mobile UX, which is very different because you've obviously got a much smaller screen. Okay. In terms of textbooks, there's a really good one called Beyond Interaction Design by Yvonne Rogers, which covers core UX. I think is really, really good. Another one I think is really, really good is this one, which I bought today. This is my own copy. It's called Interaction Design, and it's a visual guide. Basically, it's a how-to book. You go to the particular page, and you find out about that particular theory and how you can import it into your work. It's very good if you are my persona, and if you're not reading an awful lot of text, then you like visual stuff. But there's an awful lot to UX, including not just, like I said, it's about finding information, findability. There's also things like accessibility, which I will touch upon very briefly. You need to make sure that whatever product you design and then develop is accessible to those that have physical and cognitive handicaps. And you have to do that because it's the law. if you don't do it, you're breaking the disabilities. So, in terms of font, make sure that it is at least 12 points, at least, and that it's sans serif, so that those with dyslexia, which is a cognitive disability, can read it. Make sure that it has, you can increase the font. Make sure that a screen reader can read everything, including images, so that all of your images have alt tags. Basic little things, but you can't break the law fundamentally. Okay? Has anybody got any questions? Just
What
general.
they should have something.
I know that, like I said, even what I've given you today is an awful lot of information that you need to think about.
I guess what are some of the all the mistakes or things that it is common to do when you're either making a website or an app? Things
Okay.
Of like, don't do this because this is a bad idea, or don't put, I don't know, your menu.
Well, to a certain extent, you're going to explore that when you test it. Because you're going to design something that you think is right with some evidence about, you know, what your stakeholders want and what they think the users are. But the thing is, what stakeholders think their users want really is what they want. I've often found.
I'm so happy. to
So,
find it out.
but that's the point, you build it, because that's what you can do. You build it, you do some surveys and questionnaires, and actually talk to users. So you have a rough inkling, you build it, a prototype, the first prototype, go and test it. Get 5 people. 5 people will discover 95% of usability errors. So why bother having? So you can go to Starbucks, pick 5 people and say, oh, can you just have a look at my mobile app? But they've got to be your target user. There's no point asking my mum to use something that is meant for an 18-year-old. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's got to be 5 people within your target user group.
But we don't have a specific target user.
Then you're going to have serious problems. I'm being serious. It's actually really
I'm
cool.
writing an application where it's not really specified with certain
Was it Amazon that you're writing? Because Amazon tries to cater for everybody, and it does it really well.
That's how, if you're gonna have like, for example, I'm trying to do something, it's used a lot of people. Use it.
Did more than one type of thing,
Yeah, like,
but you still have user groups, don't you?
it's just one for each people, I think it's for like 18 to like 45.
That's still huge. Male, female, what types of jobs, occupations.
Male.
But you need to type, you need to narrow it down. What kinds of users? What do they each want differently from your product?
It's really, really hard to narrow it down.
But then you ask users what do they want. That's the whole point. You have to ask the searching questions. Otherwise, you're going to produce a product that nobody uses. Does that make sense? You need to be able to make sure that you can target exactly what each of your user wants. And sometimes you're going to find that user group A, Catherine, for example, wants something completely different to Steve. How on earth are you going to try and mix the two together? It's really hard.
You can identify users themselves before they access this application. So you can ask them a couple of questions.
You need to ask them design questions before you're at the design stage.
I mean, like the interface itself, the users are already in the interface.
Yeah.
You can tell. So you can have like 3 designs that merge into one. So
Potentially, but yes, potentially. Or you may have different journeys for each one, they go through a different route.
oh yeah.
That's another way of doing it. You know? But it depends what you're doing. It really does depend what you're doing. And sometimes another thing that's really important is if you're doing something that's online, you need to make sure it's responsive. So that it works on a mobile phone, a tablet, and mobile phones and tablets have a different subset of functions